let's take that up with Mr. Eric Weinstein. So Eric has a tweet thread saying essentially that no one really believes in woke ideology. So I had a conversation about this last week, but let's read what Eric says. And I'm going to say this: I agree with him, but I'll read. Eric says, hyper unpopular view. I don't think a single person on earth believes woke ideology. Any soul who truly, quote, identifies as an eagle would be instantly eliminated by testing the hypothesis. I think he's implying the person would jump off a building. But I don't know who identifies as an eagle. But it says a person who believed 2 + 2 = 5 would be unable to file taxes. That's a real good point. If you're going to make an argument about this, a semantic argument about integers and what determines 2 + 2 = 4 or 5, how do you function on a day-to-day basis? But I'll read on. He says, get woke, go broke is nowhere near extreme enough. Truly believing in wokeness could get you jailed or killed. My hypothesis is that every single soul espousing wokeness, critical theory, etc., is doing so disingenuously and without exception. That is why it can't be defeated by reason. Wokeness is reveling in the idea that it makes no sense. The only ones believing it are those fighting it. Further, this is why inclusion is at its core a strategy, because the remedy for wokeness wasting the energy of the developed world by boring us to death is to exclude it, not on the basis of it being wrong, but because the saboteur must always be excluded from civic life. Let me give other positions so extreme they are prima facie disingenuous. Crypto, toxic Bitcoin maximalism, hyper-conservatives. We need a strong defense in a dangerous world, but also all taxes, theft, etc. All of these are parasitic on someone else being the adult. I agree with him that the woke do not believe any of their ideology. And I don't know of anybody who identifies as an eagle, so I don't know what that's a reference to. But I understand the point he's trying to make to a certain degree. I do think the 2 + 2 equaling 5 is a good point to be made, because it is a hill they're absolutely willing to die on. Well, where now you have, I think, like an MIT mathematician coming out making a video explaining how 2 + 2 could equal 5. And if that's an assumption you could make, then at what point in your taxes do you say, I think this one's going to be a 4 and that one's going to be a 5?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is that because what we're calling the wokeness initiative, I added the word initiative. The initiative of what we're calling wokeness is destructive and subversive. They want to live in a world where they can say to the IRS, oh no, I say it's 5. And to say I'm wrong makes you a racist.
Right.
So
it gives them the ability to determine when it is true or not to benefit themselves.
So his argument that, no, that won't work because you'll go to the bank. He wants to be able to go out into the bank and get change for a 10 and come back with 100. Okay? That's part of the goal. But I think there's another problem here, which is that he tends to hang around with very smart people, like you and me. But we know more dumb people than he does. There are a lot of really dumb people. Michael Malice, midwits, not even that dumb.
Well, they're actually smart. Midwits.
Smart enough to simulate high intelligence, but in fact to be mediocre thinkers who I believe are buying it. And they are, because we're underestimating the power, the marvelous, wonderful power of cognitive dissonance. What doesn't add up, it will come to, we all read 1984. You come around eventually to believing the right thing because it lets your brain relax. The social pressure is off. Yes, I am a racist. You know what I've said 1,000,000 times, and no one ever retweets it because they're afraid. If all these white chicks, and they're mostly chicks, hating themselves for being white, hating themselves for hating whiteness and wishing, if they woke up black, they would walk right out the window. They would kill themselves.
They're racists.
They would. They're the biggest racists in the world. And if you disagree with me, you are a racist. Because if I'm right, if I'm wrong, then you're telling me. You're not your racist. If I'm wrong, then there is not actually systemic racism. And if I'm right that there is systemic racism, we see that the systemic racism makes hypocrites out of all these people bemoaning their whiteness. Pretty good, huh? Ron Coleman for the win.
Well, yeah. I don't think that the way I described it last week is I don't think they actually believe this stuff because it's impossible to believe two contradictory things at the same time, unless, of course, we're suggesting they're suffering from cognitive dissonance. These are the kind of people that will say the sky is blue and the sky is green to your face in the same sentence. They can't simultaneously, well, do what you say. Say that they are racists and that racists are bad, but they are good. That's just... I'll tell you this. You ever see these videos where it's like a white guy's like on TikTok and he's like telling everybody how racist he is? If anybody ever came up to me, a white person, and started talking about critical race theory or critical theory, and then said that they were a racist, I'd be like, and now you can stop talking because you're a racist and it's time for you to sit down to listen. Congratulations. Your own ideology says, shut up. Sit down. But nobody does this.
No.
You know, one of the things that really bothers me is I keep hearing about people quitting their jobs because they're being trained critical race theory, things like this. And I'm like, so what you're telling me is that your workplace is violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Is that Title VII, I think? And you just quit? You see, here's the problem. These leftists will use anything to claim as racism, and they'll get away with it. How about this? We had this story out of Seattle that I'll just pull up. Reparations fee to be charged for white people at Seattle Gay Pride event. Well, we're now hearing the Seattle Human Rights Commission has dismissed the complaint, saying that, well, you got to look at history and recognize that this is actually okay. All right. So they're willing to look at overt racial discrimination and say it's not. Okay, now I understand this is a challenge. The EEOC may be full of woke individuals who refuse to accept your complaints. But if you work at a company, the moment someone says the word white anything, you can now claim they're being racist. It's their rules. For example, here's what I've said on the show before. If they say we're going to have a discussion on white privilege, you just stop them and say, excuse me, did you just bring all these people in here to learn about white benefits, like why it's better to be white? Do you think that's okay to why don't we have a conversation about non-whiteness? Why did you think whiteness was the appropriate subject? You're a racist, you're a white supremacist, you're having a Klan meeting. No matter what they say, the moment they say anything related to race, you can claim racism. The right doesn't do this. And perhaps because they think they're fighting fair. But I'll tell you this, if you think you're playing, let me slow down. I'll do a different analogy. We're playing a game of Monopoly. We're watching the other side pull bills out of the bank in front of our faces, and we go, hey, wait, you can't do that. And they're like, yeah, I can. And you go, okay. And you keep playing. And then you're like, why do I keep losing? I don't understand. How did you have so much money to buy Boardwalk and Park Place and put hotels on it? Oh, I don't know. I guess I'll never figure it out. But I did see you taking all that money you're not supposed to do. Oh, well.
That sounds like the discussion about the election audits.
In what way? What do you mean?
Why are you suppressing votes by doing election audits? Because we saw people...
well, there was did you see the Colorado woman? She was like, we're banning fraudits.
Jenna? Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny because I was like, Colorado, no one asked you. Like, you're not one of the states. So I liken it to like you're sitting in a meeting and someone just goes, I didn't fart. And then you're like, no one said anything, dude.
But are we in for a surprise in the next few minutes?
Yeah, right. A few seconds, people are going to start to notice. And then it's like, if someone just randomly blurted that out, you'd be like,
where'd that come from?
Did you fart? Like, why did you say that? So that's, she blurts it out. But anyway, in reference to...
You're talking about a level of courage that the vast majority of people don't have.
Conservatives? Anti-establishment? The right?
Regular people.
Well, then the left is full of not regular people.
No. It takes no courage to follow the current that has been cut for you by the leaders in culture.
Then it should take no courage for someone who opposes this to just ride the wave and say, that's racist. Don't say it again. I'm writing it down. Do you think that this HR... Let me tell you this. You got an HR director, middle-aged white woman, and she's given a brochure about diversity initiatives. And then you start huffing and puffing about how she's saying racist things. Do you think this woman's going to... Do you think she's going to keep going, risk her job? Or do you think she's going to be like, I don't know.
Are you white or black?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, yes, it does.
I don't think it does.
Oh, it most certainly
The people
does.
leading the charge, like Rob and D'Angelo, are white, and they're the ones coming out making the demands, and they're getting their way.
Are they?
Yes. Yeah, that she's getting paid tens of thousands of dollars to go teach at universities, and her applied critical race theory is appearing in schools across the country.
Right.
She's getting it. She's getting everything she wants.
No. But to protest against her, you can't be white.
No. You're not.
You can grift, and here it is used properly. You can grift from this system, this ecosystem of grievance and fiction and whatever it is, and be white. But you can't push back against it and be white. You can
so hold on. Let me break this down. If a white person like Robin DiAngelo says this system is racist, she's allowed to do it. And then if you say literally the same thing, you can't? If you're white? I'm not sure I follow.
If I say literally the same thing, I can say it, but it's the next thing that I say that you're talking about.
No. So like you're in a diversity meeting and you have a white woman speaking at your HR meeting and you accuse her of being racist.
Try it on me. Try. Okay, so you just said to me your little magic formula that you think is going to solve this problem. All Mr. Right. Coleman, I don't understand why you're allowed to talk about white privilege. That makes it sound like it's better to be white.
No, I didn't say to say that. Say, why are you having a meeting centered around white people? Why are white people...
Because white people are the problem.
So
white people are dominating... White people have dominated the cultural and historical...
So are you a white supremacist?
On the contrary.
I'm going to report you to the EEOC if you say one more word, you bigot. I am not going to sit here and listen to you talk about your white supremacist views in front of me and after everything my family's been through. Say it one more time and I will go to your boss.
Sir.
Say it one more time, you white supremacist.
The mere fact that you're repeating the words white supremacist.
And then you go to the EEOC and here's what you say.
Okay, so we're now going to just do like on a TV show and just show the next scene after the extremely unlikely stuff happens.
It's like a sitcom.
Well, no, right. I don't.
So now fade to the next. Okay.
I think you misunderstand that.
I'm saying you think that. See, what you demonstrated was nothing but courage. You demonstrated that you're willing to, being Tim Pool and having a lot of confidence and having a certain station in life and being a guy with a certain amount of testosterone, that you're prepared to really push this and to try to intimidate a midwit, a professional midwit. Most people won't do that.
Perhaps. I've done it and I've won on multiple occasions.
You're Tim Pool!
So when I was making $10 an hour working for political fundraising organizations, or I should say when I did fundraising, I've sued 2 organizations and won doing exactly as I've described.
That's why you're Tim Pool today.
Perhaps. So if people just used the system as it existed, they'd start winning. The problem is...
People like you, but most people aren't like you. Take it from me because I'm more like you than I'm like the other people.
The left is doing this. Does the left have more courageous people than the right?
No.
Then why do they keep doing it? Why are they the ones to file EEOC complaints and win?
Because the EEOC is owned by them. Because the press is owned by them. Because the courts are owned by them. Because the academia is owned by them. They had a system in place, especially in academia. And in the corporate world, it turns out, to everyone's surprise, no one was ready for this, and as well as the attorneys general, they worked their way very, very brilliantly into a number of very, very important institutions in American life. And the Academia Project goes back already even before I was born. But the fruit of that has been that in all the sectors where ideas are filtered for acceptability, the left owns them.
Let me ask you something.
No.
If somebody...
I'm not going to let you ask me something.
If somebody went to the EEOC and said...
White supremacist.
My HR director made a bunch of racist comments, and I asked them to stop, and they refused. What do you think the EEOC would say?
What were the comments?
I'm not going to repeat them. I mean, it was disparaging things about race. They were talking about how races are better than others.
So Mr. Poole, please, when you have a chance, when you cool down a little bit, write down the comments for us, because we can't proceed unless we have a detailed explanation of what was made, and also give us the names of everyone else who was at the meeting.
Well, it was...
We can describe what these comments were, and we will then send it over to the very big warehouse over there where they keep the Ark of the Covenant, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. We'll have
so let me ask you, why is it that when I went to these agencies on on 2 occasions and did exactly as I describe, it worked?
Because you've got balls!
No, that's irrelevant.
First of all, when was it?
This was 13 years ago. 13 and 14 years ago.
4,013 years ago. So much has changed in the last 13 years, Tim. So much has changed. It is mind-boggling.
You're advocating for people to not use the legal system as it stands. And make an attempt.
Far be it from me to do that. I'm a schmuck who, like you, keeps knocking his head against the wall, expecting a different result. I'm all in favor of that.
So then we should encourage...
But you're asking the empirical question is, why isn't everyone doing it? Because there aren't so many schmucks like Coleman and Poole.
Here's the question. Why is the left doing it?
Rewind. Academia, courts...
That's not answering the question.
I say it is answering the question.
So leftists know that because they inherently control all the institutions, they can file a complaint and win. And because conservatives are demoralized, they won't even try.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we've recognized that, conservatives should say, oh, okay, I'll go out and try.
Yeah.
Problem solved. There you go.
Ron and Tim, we've done it.
Thanks for coming around.
So when I went to these meetings, they didn't ask me for a verbatim recollection of what happened because that's impossible to produce. I said, to the best of my understanding, they made comments about this, that, or otherwise. And
that won't happen now. Companies have changed, not in 13 years, not in 3 years, in 2 years. A close family member of mine worked in Microsoft and said, as big corporations go, they have their kind of mandatory mealy-mouthing, stuff about diversity, but it's pretty cool. I get the feeling things are really done here. In the last 2 years, it turned into a nightmare. In the last 2 years, corporate America is cowed. The judiciary is cowed. Things have changed a great deal. But I'll tell you something else, Tim. This is a related phenomenon. I had to leave 2 law firms in a row because I was taking on cases where my partners said, well, you're representing a side that has a really bad reputation. Gavin McInnes, or Gab, they're associated with Nazis. No. I'm taking on those cases because they're being wrongly associated with Nazis. I'm trying to vindicate their reputations. Yeah, but we have interns and we have vendors and we have clients. Some of them are Holocaust survivors. Some of them are, we give money to this, affirmative action program. We just can't. And I understand if you've got a law firm that you've built up over 50 or 100 years, and you're an equity partner in that organization, and you have a stake in it. And Ron Coleman wants to sweep in and be the guy who's going to show the world that Gavin McInnes isn't a racist or an extremist, or show the world that Gab is entitled to sue Google because they are monopolists. It's not, well, maybe, Ron, you might want to do that. You might even be right, but it's working very well for the rest of us to not do that. And we can do without your revenue. We like what you're practicing. Thank God I'm with Harmeet Dillon now, and she takes on not the craziest cases, but relatively crazy cases because they're not so crazy. That's the analog to what we're talking about here. Is that it's an uphill battle, but yes, we have to do it. We have to do it.
So I'm curious, these firms you describe, they're very worried about the threats or accusations. Couldn't anyone of any political persuasion just weaponize that by claiming, I'm going to accuse you of it, what are you going to do about it? I mean, you don't say it like that, obviously. But what if one of these interns was, a far right, and they were like, you know what? I'm sick of it. My pronouns are flabadoo flabadee. Don't use my pronouns and I'll file. I mean, in New York, for instance, it's a human rights violation with a fine of up to $250,000 for willful misuse of someone's pronouns.
Right, and that's unconstitutional, and eventually that will be thrown out on First Amendment grounds.
But it'll need challenging, and which means it'll need a legal case. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.